Well, hello, my friend. My name is Joe Bakhmutsky. I am the founder of Power to Be Happy and also the author of Finding Hope in Times of Uncertainty, a guide to thriving in a challenging world of today. Listen, have you ever noticed how when you go through a time of crisis, through a really difficult time in your life, you kind of really pull yourself together, right? You just somehow get through it in one piece, but when it's all said and done, you just kind of you fall to pieces. That's what happens. I remember that's what happened when our son had meningitis, and we were this close to losing him. And this really was the scariest, by far, the scariest time in our lives. Because we didn't know what was going to happen, and I just still remember just when we got to the hospital, just seeing the shock on the faces of the paramedics, and just dragging him through those open doors, and him being unconscious and being transferred to the hospital, and all the craziness that followed. I mean, we were incredibly lucky that he got through it, and he's all right now. But it was so scary. I remember in that mode, you're just kind of functioning and just trying to get through it and trying to just see what happens. And you're not thinking, you're just trying to get through what's happening in that moment. But then it was all said and done. And it did take a while for things to sort out and get through all the tests and get through the hospitals and through all the medicine and all the side effects and what have you. But I was just feeling like such a wreck afterwards. I mean, honestly, I was a mess. And so was my wife, by the way. And I noticed when I started to think back on other times in my life, the kind of challenges, maybe big and small, I noticed that was a pattern. That's one thing they kept repeating over and over again, right? You kind of get through a difficult time, and then you go to pieces. That's what happens. And I really believe that happens because you bypass all of your thinking in a time of crisis, right? You just kind of get into this survival mode, and you're just in it. You forget about yourself. You forget about the world around you. You forget about the future. You forget about the past. You just try to get through it. And what happens, because as you're pulling yourself through it, it obviously is great because it keeps you afloat. It just keeps you alive, right? It keeps you getting through it. But you also sometimes lose a little bit of yourself. Isn't it true that you sometimes just, life just becomes this one big stressful situation, right? Because sometimes these difficult moments, they can stretch out over a period of time. This crisis, it can be something that in your life can go on for a while. Like for me, that was when I was going through cancer. I mean, that was really a time of my life that was difficult. But it was also that it also took time. It was also something that I knew is not going to be over in a week or in a couple of weeks or in a few months, right? It's something that is going to take a while, and it's going to have to get used to it. So my question is, how do you not only survive through the tough times, but how do you live through it? How do you live through it in such a way that you feel like you are being true to yourself, you're being true to your values, you're living the best life that you can under the circumstances? That yes, things are crazy, yes, things are tough, but you still feel connected. You still feel like you're not only clinging on, but you're living through this difficult time. How do you get through that? Well, I've got two things that I want to talk to you about today. If you are in a place where you are going through a difficult time right now, if you're in a place where it feels like you don't know what's going to happen, and you don't know how things are going to turn out, I want you to think of a hope. And hope, I think, is a powerful feeling. Is a feeling, it's kind of like a bridge, I feel, between wish and expectation. And not that expectation that something will work out the way you want to, but an expectation that something will change. Because nothing is forever, right? We've learned this. You and me, we've learned this the hard way. And it's important to have this feeling when you go through a difficult time, because it's also important to remember that even difficult times, that they don't last. There will be a moment when you get through it and something is going to shift. And that's what hope is. Hope is that wish and expectation that something one day might change. That something one day is going to be different. That one day something will shift in somehow. And you may not even know how that's going to be. And you may not even see it. You may not see it now, and it seems hopeless, and it seems like nothing is ever going to change. Because that's the feeling when you go through a difficult time. It feels like nothing is going to change, because you feel like you're kind of stuck in this difficult moment right now. But I'm hoping that you can think of hope as a light. And what I mean to say is, I remember when my son was 1 year old, and I remember he had this fascination with the lights. Like he'd go around the house at night and he'd point, light, and he'd say, light, light. And it was, he was so excited. It was really cute, And he was doing this every night. And then at one time, I just noticed that he started doing it during the day. He would just point up and say, light, light, light. And I thought, hold on a second, what's going on? Like, why is he doing that? Right? It's a bright day, like what we've got right now. I mean, why is he saying light and pointing up? And then I realized, it just hit me that he can't see the light, but he knows that's where the light should be. And that's what hope is sometimes. You don't know what's going to happen, and you don't even see it sometimes. But please know that it is there. And we can wish and also expect that things will change, that something somehow will shift. Because that's how life is, right? Life is this constant movement. And we go through different phases, and sometimes things just unexpectedly take a different form. So please know that the hope, even if you can't see it, it's the light that is truly there. So that's one thing, that's hope. But the other thing that can really help us in a difficult time, and can help you to get your family, get your friends, get your people, your community, people you work with, how to get them really behind you in a difficult time is, well, first of all, by having hope, as we talked about. But the other is through the connection with people in your life. And when we think of connection, right? Connection, when we think of it comes from the Latin word, which means to bind together, right? So we bind together. So connection is bringing two things, or two people, or multiple people together. And that's what we really want in a difficult time. Because we are never meant to suffer and to go through difficult times in our lives alone. We're not meant to do this alone. We're meant to do it with others. And listen, I know that there are times when we always feel. We feel miserable. We feel lost. And then we feel alone. And there are times that we always feel like that. And that's why it's so important to seek out connection through others, through people who can help you. And sometimes that could be people who already a part of your life. Maybe it's your partner. Maybe it's your best friend. Maybe it's your family. Maybe it's someone you work with. Or it might be someone that you don't even know. It might be a doctor. It might be the person on a support call that you want to talk to. It might be a specialist. It might be a psychologist or a counselor. It might be a nurse. It might be just a stranger that you talk to somewhere that can really help you to get through these difficult times, to try to make sense of what's going on inside you. And because it's never easy, right? We go through these difficult moments, and oftentimes it's so hard to make sense of it yourself. And that's why talking it through with people can make a huge difference. Can make a huge difference to make sense of what is going through. What is going through for you in your life. What is going through in your mind. Because connection, right? I really feel that it's not something that you either have it or you don't. But connection is something that you create, but you also maintain and keep going, right? It's not that you just have connection with people in your life. You had to spark this connection, and you have to maintain it. You have to maintain this connection, right? You have to stay in touch with the person, and you have to be true to them, and you have to be there for them. And that's the same thing. If you do that for someone, then it's only natural that you get the same back, that you get that in return, right? That's the essence of connections. It's two-way, right? The connection goes both ways. It can't just you doing all the giving. It can't just you be doing all the taking. It has to be back and forth. And we have to allow for that to happen sometimes. And sometimes, it's difficult. It's difficult to open up about something that is difficult, something that has, that doesn't really make sense. And you don't want people to kind of judge you sometimes, and you don't want to make their life difficult either. And that's why it's important to when you open up, to sometimes maybe to talk through things out loud to yourself. I know it sounds weird, but it's really helped me in the past to open up and to talk about things, is to be somewhere on my own. Maybe I'm going on a walk, maybe I'm driving a car, and to talk to myself out loud and to talk about what is it that I am experiencing and what is it that I truly feel on the inside, and say, and ask myself questions like why did this happen? Or what can I do now? Or who's gonna help me to get through it? These are some of the key things that can truly help you in a difficult time, in a time of crisis, in a time where you're not sure what's going on, in a time when you don't know how things are going to work out. And when you know when you've talked it through, maybe you have an understanding or an inkling of what is it that you're feeling, and maybe how people can potentially help. Because the people who truly care about you, and that includes, by the way, people who may not even know you, right? Because there's so many people who really want to help you. That's why they go and become doctors or psychologists or counselors, right? It's because they want to help people. They want to find someone in a moment where they need help. That's why we do this in life. That's why we go through life. Sometimes we just want to help people in a difficult moment. And so sometimes it's important to be just lay it out. Lay out to them how you feel, how they can help. And sometimes, particularly with people that you know in your life, people who are already a part of your life. Maybe they're your friends, maybe they're your family, maybe they're your workmates. It's important to be as specific as you can possibly be so that you can direct them towards meaningful action. And by meaningful action, I mean how they can support you on your terms in a way that is really makes sense for you, right? For you and for your way of life. How do you do that? Well, I think one of the ways to do that is, I keep going back to the time when, I was going personally through my chemotherapy. And I wish now, because I really didn't know how to handle all of it, but I wish if I was to go back in time, I wish that I would have done things differently. And what I would do differently is I would send out an email. I would send out an email and say, hey, I'm going through this treatment and things are kind of crazy right now. And, I'd really appreciate your help with any of the following. And I would put in things like, with groceries and with babysitting and a few other things, right? And I would say, if you feel, I would send it to my, friends, and I would say, if you feel like you can help out with any of that, that's great. Then hit reply and let me know. And the people can kind of pick and choose what works for them. And also this way, by the way, you are preventing support that you don't want, right? You're preventing the support that you don't want in a difficult time. And I'll tell you what, and I've said this before, and I will say this again, that people who truly care about you, they are going to be forever grateful. They truly are. They're truly just going to be so grateful to you because you've just made it easy for them to support you. And that's huge. This way you're making a huge difference to their lives so that they can be there for you. And what does that mean? Well, that means that if they can be there for you, then you can be there for them. Because connection, like we talked about, it's a two-way street. If you're going to help someone, then you got to allow people to be there for you and to come out and get behind you in a difficult time. Because no one, and of course that includes you, my friend, no one deserves to go through a difficult time alone. That's why we got to have hope. Hope that one day that things will be different. Hope that one day something is going to change. And to spark and maintain that connection and keep it going by making sense of what's going on and how you feel and letting people know what that is and being as specific as you can be in directing them in how they can help you. My name is Joe Bakhmutsky. I hope this serves you. I'll see you next time.